packages that is. So, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm joined by a special guest, Jackson, and today we're going to see which rookies will pan out this season. So here's how it goes. I got my laptop to see all their stats and see all their rosters, and we're going to play by ear to see who's going to pan out, who's going to not. So without further ado, let's go ahead and not waste any more time. But our first rookie, Trevor Lawrence, looking at this season and see how he'll pan out. So according to PFF, he overcame his preseason struggles as looking at stats, he was second in preseason rookie yards with 323 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, which is second behind Jones in passing yardage. And looking at his roster, looking at the skill positions he has like Chark, Jones, and LaVisca. Looking at these players, this looks like a okay wide receiver corps at best.
One thing I will say is his running back, Travis Etienne, is out for the season. They played together at Clemson, so they had a nice connection. So we'll see what he can do with James Robinson, who was a solid running back last year. And then he's lacking a little bit in the tight end position. So hopefully he'll get the LaVisca, Chenault, Marvin Jones, and DJ Chark. He gets them all three involved with the not much depth at the tight end position right now.
Looking at his wide receiver corps, Marvin Jones had at least almost 1,000 yards with the Lions last season. And LaVisca is DJ Chark. He was a 2019 Pro Bowler with over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, even though he had a down season with 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. LaVisca he was also had over 600 yards and 5 touchdowns as a rookie. This seems like a pretty decent wide receiving core at best. But looking at their old linemen, the best one I can name out of all these is Andrew Norwell.
Brandon Linder's not terrible. Norwell is definitely the better one. He's one of the best guards in the league. At the tackle position, he doesn't have much help there.
But Robinson and Taylor.
Yeah. But I think these wide receivers will benefit from Lawrence coming from a pass-heavy offensive scheme at Clemson. I almost said Kansas. So I think that these guys, Chark has had Gardner Minshew, Mike Glennon, Bortles as his quarterback. He's never had great quarterbacks. So I think Lawrence coming in as the number 1 pick will make this offense just explode.
Mm-hmm. Now to our next rookie from BYU, Zach Wilson. Looking at this roster, they did add Corey Davis, and looking at his preseason stats, he had 191 passing yards with 2 touchdowns in only 2 games. So that's.
I think he's a solid QB. I think the Jets got a great pick at number 2.
There's been a lot of small school quarterbacks that panned out in the NFL, like Steve McNair.
I think the Jets, they had 1 win last year. They ended up getting 2 last year.
They
got 1.
They got 2.
Oh yeah, 2.
Yeah.
Just inconsistent play from Sam Darnold, who's hurt a lot of the year. They were relying on old man Frank Gore at their running back. So I think with this new youth of, Corey Davis, Zach Wilson, and then they draft Michael Carter this year? I think they drafted.
Yeah, they got Michael Carter.
So a new running back.
They got 2 Michael Carters.
Yeah, they got another
at defensive back.
Yeah, just rookies and 1 or 2 year lead people. will really make this team turn around. I don't know if they're playoff contention, but
or like 6-win contention. I mean,
yeah,
they also got another guard in Alge Vera Tucker with the 16th pick.
yeah, I think they'll be all right in their division, but don't expect them to be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. So with the 3rd pick, we got the 49ers and Trey Lance, who did have, I mean, a downside to him is that he had like his wide receivers dropped 9 of his passes, but looking at his play style for 49ers, he had 276 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception.
Now, we don't know who's the week 1 starter between him and Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's Kyle Shanahan's decision to make. I personally would like to see Trey Lance. I'm not too high on Garoppolo. I think the reason they got to the Super Bowl a couple years ago is because their defense was so stellar.
And their number 1 ranked rushing attack.
And they run the ball a lot. And Trey Lance delivers more on the ground than Garoppolo does.
Yeah, and looking at their running back core, they have Mostert and Sermon, like they're in Jusicic. I mean, they're like 3 players who can like carry this team. And I mean, they do also have some good wide receiver, Ayuk, Samuel, maybe Sanu. They also got top 2 tight end George Kittle.
George Kittle is a monster, and will continue. Whoever his quarterback is, George Kittle will always be a monster.
Mm-hmm. So with our 4th pick, now this one's Kyle Pitts from Florida. We don't know how he played because he rarely played in it.
I think he's going to be an absolute stud.
I mean, will he live up to the hype? Take a look at the last few tight end selections in the top 10 overall. I mean, 2006 Vernon Davis. I mean, he was looking at his stats over his years.
He was a solid pro. He had a couple really good years with the 49ers.
Looking at his stats. Yeah. He is actually a Super Bowl champion with
Who did he win that one with?
Broncos.
That's right. He was on that Broncos team.
His prime came in 2009 and 2013. And he also had some decent games with the football team. 2004, Kellen Winslow II. I mean, that's a whole other... I mean, his play on the field, he had a Pro Bowl appearance back in... 2007, over 1,000 yards. He also had like 5,000 yard season, but unfortunately due to off the field issues led to his dismissal in the NFL. Another tight end, TJ Hawkinson, he definitely lived up to the hype in his second year. And Eric Ebron at number 10.
Who's been very hit or miss in the NFL.
Yeah.
I feel like Ebron either goes for 10 catches, 150 yards, and 3 touchdowns, or he'll go for 1 catch to 7 yards. He's one of those type of players.
And he's also going to be like sharing the ball with Hayden Hurst. And looking at the wide receiver core, he may be the second option behind Calvin Ridley. And maybe Cordero Patterson could play wide receiver because he's like any other player wide receiver.
Hey, how are you doing?
We're good, you?
We're fine. And looking at their offensive linemen, Jake Matthews, they got some good offensive linemen. Jake Matthews, Caleb McGarry.
I think with Julio Jones leaving this Falcons team, it kind of lets Kyle Pitts go to that second role with Calvin Ridley going to the number 1 top dog there. And, Calvin Ridley, that's the number 2 option where last year was really good. So I think if Kyle Pitts can go into that second option for Matt Ryan, I think he'll have a solid solid rookie year, and hopefully just continue to get better and better.
Now our 5th option with the Bengals, Jamar Chase. Looking at his play this preseason, he had 5 targets with over four drop catches and 1 pass completion. I mean, people can blame it on like the offensive lineman, but I really don't think that. I I mean, they should have like already drafted their offensive lineman because about what happened earlier last season with Burrow getting injured. I mean, they already got two wide receivers, Boyd, Higgins. I mean, they already got their wide receiver core already. I don't get why they need a third wide receiver. Like even Jamar Chase also has the number one jersey number. It represents how many catches he caught the entire preseason.
I think one of the biggest reasons they drafted him is because him and Burrow played in college together, and they had such good connection. I think this is just preseason jitters maybe. Now I could be totally wrong, and Jamar Chase just might be an absolute bust. But I think I agree with you. Their pick at that top what was it? Was it fifth pick or sixth pick?
Number five.
Fifth pick. Should have been an offensive lineman. Try to get the best offensive lineman. But the Bengals are one of those teams that are going to try to beat you scoring 40 points while giving up 38. Like they want high scoring games, and they can do that with the trio of Tyler Boyd, Rashad, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase, and then with Burrow at the helm. I think they'll be a fun team to watch. Not necessarily contending, but a fun team to watch.
Now with our number 6 pick, the Miami Dolphins, this team selected Jalen Waddle with number 6. I mean, they could have chose anyone, like mainly because they have a really good season, a surprising season last season.
I really like Waddle. Watching it, Jaden's also a big Bama football fan. We got to watch him in college, and he was hurt for some of the season, but
he even returned to like the championship game for a few snaps.
Yeah, when he was on the field, he was one of the most exciting college football players to watch. So I'm really excited to see him and Tua back together, because Tua didn't have the best rookie year, but
he didn't have the worst one either.
Exactly. I think he could thrive now with a big buddy of his, Jalen Waddle.
I mean, another player he got on his side is Devontae Parker, and another one I think he had was Will Fuller, but he's going to be suspended for most of the season. He also got Mike Gesicki at tight end.
Gesicki's a solid tight end.
Mm-hmm. And they also got like a top 5 cornerback in Xavier Howard, who left the league in interceptions last season, which was the first time a player got 10 interceptions in like 15 years, I guess.
I know there's reports of Xavier Howard wanting out of Miami, so we'll see what happens before week 1 or maybe at the trade deadline. He might be gone if they're not contending, but if they're contending, they're going to try to keep on to Howard. I just know that I've seen reports of him trying to move away from the Dolphins team.
Now with the Lions, they select with the 7th pick. They went on to steal what could have been Cincinnati's pick and Penny Sewell. I mean, people were calling him a once-in-a-generational talent tight end, but with reports of him not living up to those expectations, I don't think that's really gonna happen. I mean, they also got Taylor Decker, Frank Ragnow, because I don't know how it's gonna turn out because I wish they got like stats for offensive linemen, but we'll see how he turns out.
I think he'll be all right. The Lions, I don't think are going to be competing at all in the NFC after trading Matt Stafford to the Rams. I don't think a team can be good with Jared Goff at the helm. I think Jared Goff is a very overrated quarterback. But they're on the rebuild process. They've been on the rebuild process for a number of years now. But I think Penei Sewell will be a stud at offensive lineman. I mean, that's what Matt Stafford needed, and it's kind of funny that they drafted him after they traded Matt Stafford. So I just think if Matt Stafford maybe would have had a better O-line, maybe the Lions would be better. But they're trying to make corrections for their mistakes in the past.
Now at the 8th pick, the Panthers selected J.C. Horn out of South Carolina. Now J.C. Horn's a really interesting person because he didn't get a high draft pick because of his stats. I mean, looking at his college stats, he actually only had looking at it. only 2 career interceptions, and only 6. 2 of them coming from last season. But I don't know. Maybe this team could be good. Like they got like
McCaffrey's back, which helps them a lot. New quarterback in Sam Darnold. That's a questionable.
super questionable.
Super questionable. After Teddy Bridgewater, he had an all right season. Now he's in Denver. He won the starting spot in Denver. I just think that Carolina is just one of those teams like you don't really know what direction they're going in. Are they trying to make the playoffs? Are they rebuilding? Are they trying to get high draft picks? Like, they're in that kind of you don't really know where they're in right now. So maybe J.C. Horn will help solidify that defense, and maybe they'll make playoff push this year. But I don't know. I have Christian McCaffrey in fantasy this year, so I want to see the Panthers dominate.
I mean, maybe he might be well. I don't know. Maybe the only person that stands out on the Panthers defense is Brian Burns. I don't know. Maybe I have to look into his advanced stats by purchasing PFF, but I really don't. I mean, now for the Broncos, with their 9th pick, they selected Patrick Surtain. Now Patrick Surtain,
Another stud at Bama.
who actually is another player that didn't have a lot of interceptions in his career.
I think that stat's a little misleading because I think teams know, hey, this corner is a lockdown. We don't need to throw at him. So the interception stat, while it might be down, I think it shows respect from the other team saying, hey, we're not going to throw at this dude because he's such a good cornerback.
I mean, looking at his defense, I mean, he might be able to succeed. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be like the starting quarterback. They also got Bryce Callahan and Kyle Fuller. They also got Justin Simmons. Their defense is stacked. Their offense, we don't know how they're going to perform with Teddy Bridgewater at their quarterback to see how he will play out.
Still got Melvin Gordon at the running back. Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton's back now after he tore his ACL last year. I think this team might be a playoff team. My bold prediction, Broncos are a playoff team this year.
Mm-hmm. And also, could he succeed with, if he could be the starting quarterback, could he win it over Callahan or Fuller? We'll have to see. Now with pick number 10, it's Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith. I mean, one thing that Eagles fans will mislead about it is his skinniness, 170 pounds, but they really don't know that training camps and weight staff exist. I mean, he's obviously the best wide receiver out of all of them. I mean, the second one, you can easily rank. It could be either Arziaga Whiteside, Regor, or Ward. We don't know. It may be the second option behind Ertz. I mean, the one thing that'll question his stats is his quarterbacks. Who will start? Either we know that Jalen Hurts is starting, but what if he gets hurt? Will it be Flacco or will it be Minshew who will be starting at quarterback?
I think watching Smith at Bama just had one of the most dominant seasons as a college football wide receiver.
I mean, he was the first wide receiver to win the Heisman since Howard, I think. I don't know. I'll have to look back into that.
But I think the Eagles had been lacking tremendously at the wide receiver position, and I think drafting him was such a good move. I also have him in fantasy, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he produces for my fantasy team. And I think he's a stud. I like Smitty a lot.
We'll have to see if he'll turn out or be on another list of wide receivers that Eagles missed over. Now with our number 11 pick, Justin Fields, he had like that one big. The only thing I can see about him is that one big hit
where he got rocked, very blindsided hit. But Fields had.
He may be a pick because of 3 things. He was the 4th quarterback selected overall, the best quarterback selected 4th overall. The 4th overall selected quarterback was Derek Carr. You have other people like Drew Stanton, I think Christian Hackenberg, I think it was Josh Rosen. The list goes on. Looking at his wide receiver core, the only good player I can see on that is Allen Robinson. They also got that good defense, but I don't think that's gonna help him a lot. Maybe he's lacking weapons.
I think the more he plays, the better he's going to get. He's one of those players. I think Justin Fields will continue to get better each and every year. The more that the Bears add weapons for Fields, the better he's going to get. He had a solid preseason. LeBron James tweeted about how fun it was to watch Justin Fields, and Jaden. I think if you get a tweet from LeBron James, I think that's pretty successful. So I think Fields will be all right.
Now, with the 12th pick, the Dallas Cowboys went on to select Micah Parsons of the Penn State. I was about to say the Ohio State. I mean, I saw him in the Hall of Fame game. He had 3 tackles and a fumble recovery. I mean, that seems like a pretty good sign that he'll succeed. If you're a Cowboys fan,
limited amount of snaps. He didn't get. I think he only played the first half.
Yeah, first half,
something like that. So I mean, that's a great first half.
But looking at the roster, this is one of those teams. Are they going to be a playoff team or are they going to be tank contenders? Because that's what happened to the Dallas Cowboys ever since their Super Bowl win over the past 20 years.
They're kind of in that Panthers of, we're trying to compete for a playoff. We're good enough to make the playoffs, but are we going to live up to the expectations? You got Dak Prescott back this year, who, yes, he's led his team to he's a good regular season quarterback. Let's just say that. Doesn't really perform as well in the playoffs. I do like watching the Cowboys though. I'm not gonna say I'm a fan of them, but their games are very high scoring, and I love high scoring football games. I could watch a shootout happen. That's why that's why everybody likes watching the Chiefs. Watching Mahomes throw it to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. With the Cowboys, it's the same. Dak's got Zeke. He's got Amari Cooper.
Gallup.
He's got CD Lamb. He's lacking a little bit in the tight end position, but
I think your defense is the biggest lack of the
yes.
ball. The best player I can see out of all of them is Jalen Smith. They also made a questionable moving Keanu Neal at linebacker. Is he like a linebacker stats?
Remember, he played safety for the Falcons. And I think they're going to try to move him to the linebacker.
Yeah, he's only 6'1", 216 pounds. I think another player that I've seen move from safety to linebacker was Mark Barron.
And I think Keanu Neal's going to play a little bit of that Jamal Adams role of where, yes, he's labeled as a safety, but if you watch any Seahawks games, rarely do you see Jamal Adams up top. You see him in the linebacker in the stance, and then he's attacking the QB nonstop. I think how many forced fumbles did Jamal Adams have? Like 3 or 4 from the safety spot. So I think Keanu is going to go play a little bit of that role. So hopefully he has more interceptions than Jamal Adams, because Jamal Adams got like 2 career interceptions, something like that.
Yeah, I think that a defensive tackle. Trying to think of his name. I think it was.
The dude from the Broncos?
No, he played Vince Wilfork.
Yes.
Yeah, he had more interceptions.
Oh, that's right. Vince Wilfork has the same amount of interceptions.
Yeah, now for the Chargers, this one's an interesting one because they drafted Rashawn Slater, but I haven't seen how he played out this year. He also got he might do well. He got some pretty solid career offensive linemen in Brian Bulaga, and they recently signed Corey Linsley at center. And I think the Chargers make a good draft pick over here because they want to protect their future franchise quarterback. Phil Rivers they protected Rivers a lot their past season. He played over 200 consecutive games.
I think the Chargers.
They're like dark horse contenders for the Super Bowl. Looking at this roster, I think it looks complete. They got Herbert at quarterback, an underrated running back, and Eckler.
Keenan Allen's a top 5 receiver. Please, no one debate. Keenan Allen is a very good wide receiver. They are in a tough division, the same as the Chiefs. And like I mentioned before, I think the Broncos are going to be a solid team. We don't really know what the Raiders are. They're in that kind of Panthers-Cowboys state of they're good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to live up to those expectations. So if the Chargers sneak into that wild card, or maybe I don't think they'll beat out the Chiefs in the regular season. The Chiefs are just Chiefs are on a revenge tour right now after just getting absolutely embarrassed in the Super Bowl by 84-year-old Tom Brady. Which we'll see. I kind of want to watch Tom win 8, but I like Mahomes a lot. So
I mean, with Alge Tucker, we already talked about him earlier. With Mac Jones, he led all preseason quarterbacks with passing yards, and recently won the starting role with Newton being released, which really hurt me because Newton was one of my favorite quarterbacks.
mm-hmm.
I mean, people will say he's gonna turn into like I don't know like Achilles Smith because he doesn't have like Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle as quarterback. I mean, looking at his wide receiving core, I mean, I can see they're not the best. Jacoby Myers, Aguilar, Perry, Myers.
He does have 2 stud tight ends in Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. I think I like Matt Jones. He was so consistent for Bama last year. Now obviously the college game and the NFL game is a lot different, but he's a very consistent QB. I think he'll do well in the Patriot system.
Also, looking at his roster, he's the only quarterback on this roster. Denham is on the reserve list. They also got Gilbert and Hoyer on the practice squad. I mean, I think he can be carried by his defense with the return of Dante Hightower. They recently signed Matthew Judon.
Judon's a good pickup.
They also got some 2 solid cornerbacks in Jackson and Jones.
Gilmore's still there, right?
He's injured, but I don't know for how
right.
long. Now with our 16th pick, Stephen Collins, I mean, I haven't seen him in preseason games yet. I mean, he was a Bronco Nagurski Award. He was one of the best defensive players in all of college football last year. I mean, this is the second linebacker they selected in like 2 years, 4 years. There he got.
Isaiah Simmons was last year's pick, correct?
I mean, he had some improvements. They also got Chandler Jones still.
Who was hurt last year, and he'll be back.
I mean, they also got J.J. Watt, but he may be washed up. They also got like a solid safety, one of the best safeties in the league, top 5 safeties all around, Buda Baker.
I really do like the Cardinals. They were this close to making the playoffs last year, in the same division as the Seahawks, and I really like watching them play. Like I said, I like high scoring games, and this team scores a lot of points. You know, with Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk. I can keep naming their weapons. You know, they did lose Kenyon Drake, but they added James Conner, which I think he's more of that grit and grind kind of running back, not the receiving back that Kenyon Drake is. But I like the Cardinals this year. I don't know. I like them.
Now with the Raiders, they selected a second-round offensive lineman in Alex Leatherwood. We haven't seen him yet.
Bama boy, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who tore his ACL last year. I know that. So he's coming back from an injury.
I mean, they also got some other. I mean, the only other player that stands out on this roster is Richie Incognito, but he's done other things that we're gonna not say in this video. I mean, Derek Carr, he's like an average quarterback, not the best, not the worst. I mean, it's sort of like, what's something that's average? Eddie Ryan.
The Cowboys are average.
He's like the Cowboys. I mean, he does have one of the best tight ends in the AFC, and Darren Waller. I mean, also, but their defense, I think the only player that stands out is Max Crosby.
They did draft a new safety in Trevor Lawrence, who is a super fast guy. I liked watching him in college. I don't know. I think they'll be all right. Again, in that fringe range, we'll see what they do. Derek Carr, here's a little prediction. They aren't in playoff contention at the trade deadline. Derek Carr's gone. And then they're going to draft a QB next year.
I see that.
So that's my prediction.
Now, Jalen Phillips had it's like a movie role with Jalen Phillips. He was a 5-star recruit who played 2 years in the UCLA, but being forced to retire until returning back to playing for Miami, Florida, and then turning to a top first-round pick. And I think he might do well with maybe he's the best defensive lineman or edge rusher around or quarterback sacker. But I mean, they also got Ogba and Wilkins. I think he might do well depending on how he plays.
Yeah, we talked about the Dolphins already, but they're a fun team to watch. A young core, surrounded by rookies and 1 or 2 year pros. I think they're a fun team. They were very close, like we mentioned last year. We'll see how they pan out. Again, we're hoping Tua has a better sophomore season, so we'll see how they are.
Now on the football team, they selected Kentucky linebacker Jermaine Davis. I mean, I think that's something they can fill off for their roster. I mean, the best linebacker is John Boston, followed by like a plethora of defensive linemen.
That's the best defensive line in football. Chase Young, Deron Payne,
Jonathan Allen, Ion Donis,
Montez Sweat.
Payne.
And they're monsters.
But one thing that doesn't stand out is their offense, to be honest.
No. Gibson is he's him and Terry McLaurin. They are the bright shining lights for this offense. That QB, go ahead and name those QBs on those rosters.
Kyle Allen, Brian Fitzpatrick, and Taylor Heineke.
It's not gonna cut it.
That doesn't cut it. Yeah, you're right. The Giants, they selected Kadarius Toney with the 20th pick, but we don't know how he's going to play because he didn't play that much. I mean, this one's just another one of their average team. I mean, they got a really good defense with Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, James Bradbury, and Adoree Jackson. I think they're Jabril Peppers. I mean, their defense. I mean, their offense needs more work. I mean, Kenny Galladay was injured during the preseason. Sterling Shepard. I mean, I think this is going to be carrying on the back of Saquon Barkley on their backs the entire season.
So Tony played kind of that Swiss Army knife role at Florida. You know, he would take snaps at running back, he'd take snaps at receiver, he was their punt and kick returner. Just kind of that do-it-all kind of guy on offense. So that's a good guy. I think this is a really good draft pick. Another weapon for Daniel Jones, who I personally think this is a make-or-break season for him. If it doesn't work out, I think he'll either get cut or traded. And if it does work out, maybe they extend him. But we'll see. Some aspects of Daniel Jones' game I like. Obviously, he throws a lot of interceptions, but he's a little bit of a dual threat quarterback. Especially with teams just loading the box on Saquon Barkley. I think anytime he does a read option, I think he's going to get 10 to 15 yards because every team's so focused on Saquon Barkley. So now that he's got his weapon in Saquon back, they're still not making the playoffs.
Now with the Colts, they selected Kwity Paye from Michigan, which I heard nothing but positive reviews about him. I mean, pair him with DeForest Buckner. I mean, I think he could be the second best dangerous defensive lineman on that team. They also got Darius Leonard, who's really good.
He's like one of the best linebackers in the game.
Yeah.
This is a team that made playoffs, but obviously their quarterback's different now. Wentz is coming back from a broken foot, correct?
Yes.
So we'll see. I like Carson Wentz. I really do. I think he's an upgrade over Philip Rivers. So maybe this team goes further in the playoffs than they did last year. They ran into a tough Buffalo team who, at Buffalo, it's rowdy there. So a playoff game at Buffalo is certainly tough, but they made it a really good game. That was one of my favorite playoff games last year. So we'll see how they do.
Yeah, they also got some good. They also got Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack, which I draft every year for fantasy, which I decided not to because he's gonna play like second or third string behind Naheem Mines. And they also got looking at the wide receiver core also. The only two that stand out is Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman.
Do they even have Ty on that roster? He's over here.
Yeah, he's uninjured.
Okay. Ty's on the back end of his career.
Yeah.
Not as dominant as he used to be. So I like Ty though. He's always been a solid stand-up guy. So we'll see.
Now looking at the Titans, they selected a cornerback and Caleb Farley. How well did he do in college? Let me see. Oh, he had 4 interceptions in 10 games. So looking at some interception stats, he might do well in the interception snaps, but I don't think this defense is not the best because the only player I see on that team that stands out is Rashad Evans, and that's it, to be honest. They're going to be offense and offense only. Wait, oh yeah, he's on that list that we won't say.
They did lose Clowney, but Clowney,
he really didn't pan
out that much for them. But again, this is one of those teams that's going to get absolutely carried by their offense. Derrick Henry, in my opinion, best running back in the game. As far as just pure running back goes. Now, he's not involved in the receiving game that much, but you don't need to involve him in the receiving game when he's getting 25 carries a game. He's just going to bulldoze everybody.
They recently acquired Julio Jones and A.J. Brown, which are 2 players, I think.
That's going to be a fun duo to watch.
I don't know about Julio because he's going to be like in his 30s, but we'll have to see how he'll do with the Titans. Now, with the 23rd pick, the Vikings selected Christian Darrisaw to help protect Cousins, and I think they really needed an offensive lineman.
It was a solid pick.
Yeah, because you need. I think they recently lost one of their recent offensive linemen, and looking at his team, he's going to do everything to protect Cousins
and Dalvin. This team's going to be led by Dalvin. Justin Jefferson, solid, and so is Thielen, but just not very high on Kirk Cousins. He has his games where he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He also has his games where he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. So we'll see if we can get a more consistent Kirk Cousins. I think he's still without a win on primetime, if I'm not mistaken. Still has not won a game on Sunday night or Monday Night Football. So big time player is not in his resume.
Also, Walt Filler is on this practice squad.
Who?
Walt Filler. He was named Walt for his love of the Burger King Whopper.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, now looking for the Steelers, aka the TikTokers, they needed an offensive lineman, but they refused, and they selected Najee Harris, which I watched a lot.
Who is dominant.
He was I think he won the...
Second. Was he second in Heisman?
No, I think that was someone else. He was winner of another award, the DeWalk Walker Award. I was trying to think of that award. Yeah. I don't know how he's going to turn out because he doesn't have good offensive linemen, and with Ben and his wide receiving core who had the most drop by any team last year, I don't know how he's going to perform this year.
I drafted Najee in fantasy this year, so I'm really hoping that he dominates. Steelers are, they were clowned for having such an easy schedule. They were undefeated. How long were they undefeated for?
11 games.
11 games.
Losing, never heard of her.
Yeah, and then they get to the playoffs and get trounced. And I mean trounced by the Browns.
Yeah, I also saw a guy live stream the game, commentary. He was just losing his mind after the first quarter.
I bet he was. What were they down? 3 touchdowns after 1 or something?
28-0.
Was it 4 touchdowns? Oh, wow. So, definitely they're on a revenge tour this season like the Chiefs are.
I'll because their wide receivers aren't taking stuff seriously. Just looking at their wide receiving core, they're just
quarterback.
Also, I saw Smith just doing the crate challenge, just walking down some crates.
Yeah. Oh.
Imagine your wide receiver get injured over some crates before a game.
Yeah, Juju's one of those guys that
he was one of the most likable players, and then just like that, he became public enemy number 1 of the entire wide receiver core. Antonio Brown too, but that's another story.
Hey, Antonio Brown's turned his career around at Tampa Bay.
I refuse to believe that. And Claypool, that's another story. Brown's gonna get smacked. Wilt.
Go Browns. I'm just kidding.
No, the Jaguars, Anthony, it's not gonna count because he's injured. Newsom the second. Looking at stats last season. only one interception, and he doesn't have a lot of games. And he's not that good of a tackler.
I think his is more of a potential pick. He has potential to be a great player because his dad was a great player in the NFL. Or am I thinking of the right guy?
I think we were talking about someone else.
Ozzie Newsome is the guy I'm thinking of. Never mind. Never mind.
I mean,
I thought it was.
I mean, he may not be the starting quarterback because they also have Grady Williams, Troy Hill. They also got Grant Delpit and maybe someone like Richard LeCounte, who's going to be, or actually it's John Johnson who's going to be at the safeties. Maybe he could be like a backup who'll also play starting cornerback every time. Or maybe if he has to start, he'll get Myles Garrett at defensive end, who's one of the top defensive ends in the league.
As long as he's not grabbing helmets.
Mm-hmm. And they also got Malcolm Smith. I mean, I think this team could be a Super Bowl contender if the success don't get into their heads.
I agree. This is an lethal offense. Baker Mayfield has been hating on his entire football career, but he's a solid QB.
I mean, I'll get the hate for Baker. I mean, he did some stuff at Kansas and Ohio State, but that's another take.
I like watching Baker. They get Odell back this year. So, I mean, this team went pretty far without Odell.
I mean, they got Jarvis, who's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league.
And
they also got
Rashad Higgins is a solid one.
They also got two of the best running backs in the league, in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, or duos in the league.
But those two, they complement each other so well because Nick Chubb is just such a great downhill runner, and then Kareem Hunt loves kicking things, but also loves catching the ball. So,
I mean, they're like Ski and X.
Yeah.
Now with my team, we selected Minnesota wide receiver Rashad Bateman, which we haven't seen play in the team.
I'm gonna let him talk about the Ravens because he's such a Ravens fan. I won't say a word.
I mean, we'll have to see how he'll turn out, but I think he's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league with how Jamar Chase has been playing, I haven't heard anything about Jalen Waddle. I mean, with Lamar Jackson going to have like a meltdown season last season, I think teams already figured him out, but this season, I don't think the team actually didn't figure out Lamar Jackson. I think it's our offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, that's already been figured out. I mean, he's already like the second best. I don't think he's gonna be like the starting wide receiver right away. I mean, he'll play behind Watkins and Brown, which I think Watkins will be like good, like one of the best wide receivers in week one, then disappear. While Brown, I think he's gonna be like good only through deep threat. I mean, we also lost Dobbins in an injury. I mean, Gus Edwards is also a great backup. So he also has 5 yards per carry, which I don't think is like something that'll help him. Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle are also 2 tight ends that'll help us in case our wide receivers are open. I mean, Mark Andrews is the third best AFC tight end. And we also got Stanley back at offensive tackle. Villanueva is also going to be our right tackle. We also got Kevin Diedler and Ben Cleveland, which I heard positive things about on the running game. Bradley Bozeman, he's actually improving in his center game. We also got good defensive lineman, Calais Campbell. We also got another player that we'll talk about, Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphrey, Marcus Peters. I think this is going to be like a Super Bowl contending team if we play our cards right together. Don't you agree? You can talk about them.
I agree. I like the Ravens. I've always been a big Lamar Jackson guy. I think losing J.K. is big, but as long as this offense is more consistent, because this defense is stellar. They're one of the best defenses in the league, so I have no worries about their defense. I think if they get a consistent offense, and I would like to see them incorporate the passing game more. I think Lamar Jackson's got a good arm. Now, his decision-making might not be the best, but I think he's got a rocket arm, and so I would love to see them air it out more. Obviously, yes, I still want to see them run the read option with Lamar because he's such an amazing athlete, but, we'll see.
Now with the Saints, they needed several positions because they lost a lot in free agency.
And with Drew Brees retiring.
and they decided to start Winston, which I don't know how it'll turn out. Thomas is going to play this season because with everything that happened, and they went on to select Peyton Turner, which I haven't heard, but I saw like a highlight where the highlight was him getting pancaked by offensive linemen. I mean, they already got Cameron Jordan. I think Davenport's a pretty good defensive end. I mean,
as a Saints fan, I'm not in love with this pick.
Mm.
I would have much rather us draft a second stud receiver besides Michael Thomas because I'm gonna be honest, I think Michael Thomas is not gonna stay on the Saints for much longer. Now I like Jameis. I think Jameis is a stud.
I think their offense is only gonna be consistent of Alvin Kamara.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he's gonna get more touches. I mean, the second best wide receiver I see that on the team. I mean, just look at that wide receiver: Marcus Callaway, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Ty Montgomery, Traquan Smith.
It's not the best.
Yeah, it's really not the best.
So I'm excited. I'm excited to watch my Saints this year, post Drew Brees era. You know, it's going to be a different breed of New Orleans Saints football. So I'm excited to see what Sean Payton does. I think the defense just is going to continue to get better and better. So I don't know. I'm excited to watch them after Drew Brees, because Drew Brees is one of my favorite players of all time. So
also looking at their quarterback situation, if Winston doesn't turn out, then
we still Taysom.
Mm-hmm.
I like Taysom a lot. I know he gets hated on. I know he got a big extension this offseason. And he's still going to play that Swiss Army knife of he can play quarterback, he can play running back, he can play tight end, he can play wide receiver, he can kick and he can be your kick returner or punt returner. Taysom can do everything on the offense besides block. But I'm sure if you put him on the offensive line, he wouldn't do half bad.
Mm-hmm. Now looking at the Packers, they really needed not to make
old Packers
Rodgers angry, which they did by drafting what was it again? Eric Stokes out of Georgia. I mean, I think they needed like a cornerback, I guess. I think since Kevin King, I mean, they were our last chance to see Brady get in a 7th ring, but with Kevin King getting burned by Scotty Miller,
all cooked the entire AFC Championship game.
You need
NFC. Sorry,
you needed a quarterback. I mean, they got a good defense, to be honest. They got Kenny Clark. They also got Zadarius Smith and J. Alexander, who's also one of the best cornerbacks in the game. I mean, I think their main focus is just going to be on offense. Is what we're going to look at with Rodgers, Jones, Adams.
I don't know what this team's going to be I don't know what this team's going to be next year. You got both Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith wanting out. You got Devontae wanting out if Rodgers goes. You got the reigning MVP wanting out. I don't know what this team's going to look like. I think, in my opinion, I think they should just blow it all up and become a rebuilding team. Because, yes, they did take old man Tom Brady to the NFC Championship, but you saw what Tom did in the Super Bowl. Like, it's still Tom Brady.
Now with the Bills, they've actually got us the defensive end that I actually wanted, Gregory Rousseau, which I heard. Oh, that's the wrong roster. Which I heard nothing but positive reviews about him. I really wanted him. Like, man, he was like something that if I actually got both Bateman and Rousseau on the same team, I would automatically call that team Super Bowl contenders. But unfortunately, the Bills robbed me of that said player. I mean, I've heard like a lot of positive reviews about him. I mean, looking at this defensive lineman, they got like it looks like a very solid defensive lineman. Maybe they can turn Rousseau into a linebacker, an outside linebacker. I mean, they need some help on them. AJ Klein, Matalano. Jermaine Edmonds is also one of the best middle linebackers. Or is it Jermaine Edmonds?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they also got some. I mean, they already got some good defensive linemen: Mario Addison, AJ Epinesa, Ed Oliver, Vernon Butler. I mean, and maybe he can help with the cornerback, which Davius White and Micah Hyde, which will help him out.
This team made the best offseason acquisition in Mitchell Trubisky.
The MVP?
Wait, what was it? MVP?
MVP.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, what was funny about that game was he played horrible. They lost the game, and he still won MVP.
I mean, I don't think that he was the problem in Chicago. I think Chicago doesn't do well with developing quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, look at his revenge game against Chicago. I mean, he was just turned into like prime LeBron there.
I don't know. Josh Allen's obviously a top 3 quarterback in the league right now. This team in the next 5 years could get a Super Bowl. I just don't know if they'll ever get out. Like I want a AFC Championship game of the Bills Chiefs every single year. I want that every single year because it will be such a good game. I don't know if they'll ever get over the Chiefs, over that hump of beating the Chiefs. But Josh Allen is a fun guy to watch. So we'll see what the Bills do this year. I'm excited to watch them.
Now, we already talked about. Now, with the Ravens, they got a day, so we had to settle on Odope away on the 31st pick. I mean, he turned out to be pretty average this preseason. Not the best, not the worst. I mean, he may be playing second role behind Houston and other players. You know, he'll be playing second fill over players like Bowser and Houston and McBee. Maybe he'll learn from those players. Now with pick number 2, Joe Tryon, I haven't heard anything about him, but I don't think he's gonna play this season due to him being backup. Seeing how the Buccaneers roster is seeing, and
I don't want to say the Bucs are going back to back,
I mean they may age this well.
but they kept every single starter from that Super Bowl team. Every single one, all 22 starters, they kept. I don't know. It's hard to bet against them. It's hard to bet against Tom Brady, even though he is aging. But you can never. I've learned through my childhood and my teenage years that you can never ever count out Tom Brady.
Now looking at the teams that didn't have a first pick, let me go ahead and look at their best rookie that I see off the top of my head. The Texans. It's nobody. Not really.
This team will be. This team might be 0-16.
0-17?
17. Sorry, I forgot we added one more game on the year.
Yeah, another team that didn't have a first round draft pick. Seattle. Maybe if they. I don't know about this team.
I think this is part of the Russell or the Jamal Adams trade. Correct? They traded their first round pick.
Yeah.
For Jamal Adams. Okay.
I don't know if they're gonna regret this trade or not. We'll have to see.
Seattle. Again, they're solid. They're obviously going to be a playoff team. You know, Russell Wilson's MVP candidate. I feel like every year he's just never won it. Well, I'll say this: for the first 4 weeks of the season, he is an MVP, and then he just progressively just plays average the rest of the year. I have him in fantasy this year. I wish him the best. I really want to see him thrive because I want to win my fantasy league this year.
Now, the third team that didn't have a draft pick is the Rams, and
this was also part of the Stafford trade, correct?
Yeah, I mean but looking at the roster, they lost Cam Akers. They have to rely on Henderson, Michelle, and Bunk.
This team, has one of the best defenses in the league with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. Those are the only 2 names I have to say. 2 of the best defenders in the league.
Their offense, we have to see about. Will Stafford live up to the hype in Los Angeles? Will Henderson be the next Cam Akers? We'll have to see about that. I mean, looking at the wide receiver core, they got Tutu Atwell, which I've heard positive things about. Jackson, who may be washed, but we'll have to see. Cup, Wood, 2 solid wide receivers. Higbee, a good tight end. We'll have to see how they'll perform without a first round pick. And our last team without a first rounder was Kansas City, which they gave us their first round pick in order to they'll receive a new offensive tackle, Orlando Brown Jr., with their new offensive lineman. With
the Chiefs are Super Bowl contenders. There's not much else to say. They're really freaking good.
Yeah, with their new offensive lineman and Creed Humphrey.
I want to see if they can go perfect in the regular season. I think they got a shot to. What were they? 14-2 last year.
Yeah, 14-1.
14-1. They lost to the Raiders in a shootout
in a trap game, and they started. and they used their backups.
They used their backups at the end of the season against the Chargers, I think, something like that.
But if they originally had the first round pick, they could use an offensive lineman, but they traded for Orlando Brown, which I think was a good trade for us.
So yeah, Chiefs, solid team, or more than solid team. They're Super Bowl contenders. I like Mahomes a lot. I kind of want to watch him win a Super Bowl. But I mean, I've said that. I feel like I've said that about like 6 or 7 teams that I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just excited. I'm excited for the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Comes up next week, so
Mm-hmm.
it's coming.
So-
It's creeping.
So, thanks for watching.